So what do you make of me, Mo? The ladies are all being very polite. They're saying, Andy, that's interesting, that's different. And the men, on the other hand, are pointing, laughing, and singing choruses of YMCA, and asking, why on earth have you grown that thing? My answer is, because I want you to ask me that question so I can answer it. The story starts on the 1st of January last year. During the course of our New Year's festivities, I managed to injure my back and was doing what I always do when I've hurt myself, taking painkillers, pretending it'll go away, particularly if I whine to my wife. After about a week or so of whining, it hadn't gone away, and I found myself down at the doctor's. She fixed my back in a moment and said, Andy, we don't see you very often. I said, well, no, because I'm never ill. I'm fit and well, me. She said, let's see. Let's do a bit of an MOT. And asked me some questions about lifestyle and habits and all that sort of stuff. During which time I had found that I had to admit, first to myself and then maybe to her, that, yeah, I did have a bit of a problem in that I was weeing more often than usual. I was going perhaps 2 or 3 times compared to my mates in the same space of time. In fact, I wasn't having a drink at night anymore because I'd have to get up in the night to go for a wee. But at least when I went, unlike the guy in his picture, at least I lifted the seat up. She did some tests. She sent them off, and 3 days later called me back and said, Andy, I'd really like you to come in and have a chat about what we've found. Your PSA levels are a bit high. See, there shouldn't be more than 3, and yours are 12.9. What this means is that there's a chance you've got prostate cancer. 8 days later, I was at Nottingham Urology Centre, where I met Mr. Harris, who's one of the nicest people you'll ever hope to meet. And he did a load more tests and said, yeah, I probably did have prostate cancer. And yes, it would be a good idea to do something about it. And no, it wasn't going to kill me. One man in Britain does die, however, every hour from prostate cancer. And 35,000 men are diagnosed with it every year. And it's now become the biggest cancer killer in men. This bump with my own mortality did cause me to stop and take stock of the situation quite carefully. I don't mind admitting I was scared. But one day I was driving up the M6 past what looked like a fairly horrible car crash, and I realised that none of us know what's around the corner, and the very best thing that I could do would be to become an active participant in my own rescue. And I found a great deal of strength and inspiration from this man's story. This is General Norman Schwarzkopf, and that's not his moustache, by the way. He was diagnosed with prostate cancer and took a very, shall we say, proactive attitude towards it, to the point where he even stood in the doctor's waiting room in Kung Fu attack pose. On the 26th of March, I had a laparoscopic radical prostatectomy. 2.5 hours of very high-tech surgery, which wasn't that hard to get over, in that only 6 days later I was up and about and able to go and enjoy my daughter's 16th birthday party. Even more importantly, about 3 weeks later, I had a phone call from the hospital to say that they got the biopsy back and that my tumour was organ contained. When I said, what does that really mean? She said, basically it means your cancer is now all in our histology lab. And that's why hundreds of thousands of men like me have been growing moustaches this past Movember, to tell our own stories about prostate cancer, to raise awareness of it, to raise funds, so that we can perhaps lessen the problem that it's becoming. Helping share stories about whether you're at risk or not. Genetic determinants aside, you're most at risk if you're overweight, if you don't exercise, if you eat lots of red meat and cheese, and you reduce your risks by exercising, keeping fit, eating lots of the leafy green vegetables, and cooked tomatoes. But most importantly, you must know the symptoms, and if the 7 deadly dwarves of prostate cancer move in, they are drippy, droopy, frequently urgently, nighttime, bladderful, and rushed. You need to get yourself down to the doctor and do something about it, but I know some of you won't. I know some of you, even when you've got the symptoms, won't go simply because you're too embarrassed to show the doctor your bum. You're too nervous about the dreaded digital rectal exam. You know what I'm talking about. It's not that bad, and it's nothing compared to what might go wrong. The biggest reason men don't go is that in order to actually go, you have to face up to the fact that you've got a problem. You have to think the unthinkable. I've got a wise friend called Tom, whose one of his favourite sayings is, when you stick your head in the sand, your arse starts to look like a target. And never was that more true than in this case. Mr. Harris said to me early on that at some point I would find some value in this. I might even be grateful for the experience. I found that hard. But you know, life is sweeter now. I do look at life in a different way. And I took strength then, and still take inspiration every day from the words that Kalidasa wrote in the 5th century. Look to this day, for it is life, the very life of life. In its brief course lie the verities and realities of our existence, the bliss of growth, the glory of action, and the splendour of beauty. For yesterday is but a dream, and tomorrow is only a vision. Yet today, well lived, makes all our yesterdays dreams of happiness, and all our tomorrows visions of hope. Look well, therefore, to this day. And that's my closing wish for you, that every day is a day well lived, a day where you find love, a day where you find laughter, a day where you find happiness, and a day where you find the courage to do the tough stuff that you have to do to make sure that you live many, many, many more days well lived.